I've already done a review on Star Wars Squadrons as a game in its entirety, but this channel is primarily based on story and lore, so I thought I should make a video focusing on just that. I will be talking spoilers here eventually, but I'll give you plenty of warning before I start. First, the whole thing is 14 missions long after the prologue. Most of it takes place some unknown time in between the battles of Endor and Jakku, I would guess around 6 months after Endor, right at the midway point. It deals with Project Starhawk, the New Republic's answer to the Imperial Star Destroyer. The Imperial Titan Squadron is attempting to find and destroy it, and the New Republic's Vanguard Squadron is tasked with its protection. In between missions, you'll have a chance to speak with your squad mates to learn more about them and get more context. I played the game on normal difficulty and made sure to speak to my squad mates every chance I got, and it took me about 6.5 hours to complete, just to give you an idea of length. That seems to be fairly standard from what I can tell for a game that has a much stronger focus on multiplayer. I thought it was well-paced and a good length, and nothing felt rushed along like it did for Battlefront 2's campaign. The missions were full of variety. I can't think of any missions repeating themselves. Lots of different environments and objectives. It's not like every single time they just plop you into a fleet battle on a new map. They started off fairly easy, and then by the end I was starting to die and struggle a bit even on the standard difficulty. It got a little tiresome fighting AI for 6 hours straight. It's just completely different from fighting another actual human. But even if all you really want to do is play multiplayer, I absolutely think the story is worth playing for training purposes. They really ease you into it, teaching you basic flight and combat in the prologue, and then every mission introduces something new and teaches you advanced moves you're going to want to be able to use online. As for the story itself, I am very pleased to say I was surprised by the plot more than once. There are already some stories that take place shortly after Squadrons in the timeline that led me to make some assumptions on how this story would go, and I was just straight up wrong. I'm used to it by now, but I'm glad it didn't just draw a straight line between Endor and Jakku. It threw some curves in and kept me on my toes. And that feels like a good time to shift into spoiler territory, so if you haven't played the game quite yet and you don't want to know what happens, shut this off and go finish it. Okay, you're still here. So the biggest twist this story threw at me was the fact that the New Republic actually failed. Going into it, I was like, okay, the Imps want to destroy the Starhawk prototype, but we know they don't because Starhawks are at the Battle of Jakku. But no, the Starhawk is lost, and what's more, the New Republic chooses to sacrifice it for their people. The tagline leading into this game, and maybe specifically the story mode, was all about why we fly, and the game focuses a lot on the different doctrines of the Imperials and the New Republic, or Rebels, or whoever, the good guys. The game makes a big deal about the Starhawk. I mean, the Republic is kind of taking a page out of the Imperial playbook by making massive warships. As Vanguard Squadron learns more and more about them, they question the project. Starhawks are made out of Star Destroyers, and at one point you help steal one, and a Vanguard leader says, once you steal the Star Destroyer, everything Imperial starts to look tempting. Yeah, how far into acting like an Imperial are you gonna go, even if it's in the name of good? Some of our missions are noted as being almost Imperial in their strategy. We even lure the Imperials into a trap like the second Death Star. We use a supposedly inoperational weapon as bait and then strike. There's a lot of discussion on the importance of how we go about winning. How far is too far, and how do we find that balance? But in the end, the New Republic does show that it knows where to draw the line. Project Starhawk is in danger, and when the choice is presented to protect it or the people surrounding it, the New Republic chooses to protect the people above all else, going so far as to sacrifice the Starhawk to do it. And that's why the New Republic flies. It serves its people. It values its people. Can you imagine the Empire prioritizing the Death Star's engineers over the Death Star itself? I can't, because the Empire views weapons and people as one and the same. They're tools. Titan Squadron's commanding officer even calls Titan Squadron her weapon. On the Imperial side, Titan Leader, or Grey, talks about the difference between expendability and replaceability. He knows every time he sits in his TIE cockpit, he could be wiped out. He accepts that he and his pilots are expendable, but he also knows that not just any pilot can fill the shoes of one of his wingmates. That's not a very Imperial outlook. The Empire tends to view all people, no matter their role, as interchangeable, and that's why ultimately Project Starhawk endures, because the New Republic knew it was wiser to lose time into materials and a capital ship prototype instead of the people that made the project possible in the first place. So, there's all that. That's kind of the larger Star Wars universe story being told in Squadrons. That's the bit I'll include in the canon timeline, but there is also a more personal story. There are a lot of characters in the game, but the emotional core is surrounding Javes and Carol. In the prologue, Javes defects to the Rebel Alliance, leaving his friend and protege Carol behind. And it's clear the entire story how personally she took that betrayal. Yeah, sure, she wants to stop Project Starhawk, but mostly she wants to seek revenge on Javes. She wants to best him and prove that she is better than he is. In the end, at a point where she thinks Javes is dead, she leaves the mission incomplete. The Starhawk is disabled but not dead, and she leaves because she got Javes. She got what she came for. And I was wondering why, but there is a line that Javes actually delivers earlier in the game. The core of Imperial doctrine is being certain that what you're doing is right. I think Carol must have been living with a lot of pain after Javes defected. Maybe she regrets not going with him, or maybe she was hurt that he didn't trust her enough to tell her that he was leaving. He does have this chance to tell her and he chooses not to, and he definitely has trust issues throughout the rest of the story. Whatever Carol is going through, I think she needed to defeat Javes to convince herself that staying with the Empire was right, and Javes joining the rebellion was wrong. I think she probably had some doubts about the side she had chosen, especially after what happened at Endor, and the only way she knew how to deal with it was to prove to her former mentor that she could beat him. She can't express her doubts because doubt is seen as disloyalty in the Empire. On the flip side, the New Republic pilots are expressing their doubts constantly when it comes to Project Starhawk, as I've already discussed. But yeah, that's everything I want to say about the story mode for Star Wars Squadrons. I think it was pretty great. I love that it surprised me, but even more, I love that this wasn't just a story all about hopping in your ship and blowing things up. Yes, obviously I want to do that, but Star Wars has always been more than that. I really enjoyed taking a closer look at what writers Joanna Berry, Mitch Dyer, and Walt Williams had to say. If you want to see my full review of Star Wars Squadrons, I'll link to that in the cards. I'm also having a great time streaming it here on YouTube and on my Twitch channel that you can find in the description. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.